start this morning with a spiritual mind treatment. How many of you here are familiar with treatment? Are you familiar with treatment? Just briefly, we know that our consciousness rules our experience. So whatever it is that we're thinking into the mind, either consciously or unconsciously, is the beginning of that experience that we're going to have. And that we call the law of mind, and it's the way that life operates from being invisible to visible. So there's a form in science of mind which is a replica of the way any master ever approached the divine mind that we're always working with and living in for any good that they wanted to demonstrate. And the replica we call spiritual mind treatment, which is a certain scientific, logical approach to the mind that, done in the right way, brings about, with grace and ease and poise, your right results that you're desiring. So it's far more powerful than affirmation or positive thinking. The reason being that if you're in affirmation or positive thinking, it can be a mental activity, but it's not going into the heart. You know, we can say, I'm good, I'm this, I'm that, forever. But if it is not met with a heartfelt inner recognition on the spiritual planes, it will not go forth. So treatment reestablishes you in an awareness of your true identity as one with God, and moves you in mind from where we are right now. You could say all of us have something we have in mind right now that we'd like to experience. So it moves us in the creative path to having that experience, Okay, so it's a very dynamic and powerful tool that has been used by the masters of the ages. The different aspects of ourselves, although they seem independent, are a one operational system that, when we are utilizing our gifts and our faculties at the highest level, resonate with the perfection of the cosmic mind and therefore produce magnificent experiences for us. So I'm going to talk about that, how to bring what I call our three-in-one bodies into harmony and perfect rhythm. But before I do that, I'd just like to make a few announcements. At the United Nations, we are celebrating the new millennium of universal spirituality by bringing in some of the major New Thought spiritual leaders from around the world who will give the audience their ideas for the new millennium, for the new ways for us, new paradigms for us to be living by in terms of our countries, our interpersonal relationships, our relationship with ourselves, and our relationship with the entire cosmos. You know, treatment as a collective consciousness, you know, one of the reasons for meeting at the UN is we know that the concept of the United Nations is a divine idea that needs to be brought out in its fullest capacities, and that we will see, you know, whatever healing, when our mind on a universal level heals, we will see that our form of government will change from separatism to a united body that is represented by each country, maintaining their uniqueness but united under divine principle. So the UN is like the divine seed of that idea. So, you know, by gathering all those persons of consciousness to meditate on the truth and to be there, we're setting a powerful vibration in that mind radio, you know, those invisible waves that exist, and they're very powerful. And my experience is anytime we have contemplated the perfection and brought in God or perfection on any issue, there are mighty changes that go on. This morning, well, you notice my title is when I say man, I mean generic, humankind, man, woman's three bodies and how they operate. And what that refers to really is our mental, physical, emotional bodies, which are our creative instrument, which we need to align at the top level to work as one. So, looking at life, our life, from the high place on this heavenly God planet Earth, we must come to realize, you know, with all of our quests and all the challenges we put before ourselves, We must come to realize what our true charge is here. What is our true purpose here? What is it that we're really about? And what are the tools? What do we have to work with? So this morning we're focusing on these 3-in-1 bodies that we have, which constitute a cosmic system, that when we perfect these 3 modes of expression, and when we bring them under our conscious control and the control of spirit, our spiritual reality, this is the means by which we can experience heaven, or the greatest good you can conceive of on earth. Through utilizing this cosmic system the way it was divinely intended, this is the way we can stream heaven, glorious good, to our right now experiences. So how do we ground heaven principles on earth or in our manifest world? We have these aspects of mind, emotions, or feelings, we sometimes call them, and body, or all of physical arena. That means physical body, body of relationships, body of circumstances, body of career, anything out there that we can touch, feel, relate to with the senses. We call that body. So mind, body, and feelings act as a more instrument, an unbroken filtering stream of consciousness, always acting to magnify and outpicture the concepts that are held deep within on the invisible planes. Body, mind, spirit have the full divine capacity and potential to fully operate and bring out the divine ideal and to reflect the perfect essence, substance, and prototypes of divine ideas that are resident within each and every one of us. Even Carl Jung referred to the universal prototypes. You know, a prototype is like an inner, a spiritual body. You cannot see a prototype, right? But certainly all of life moves to express, though we are, consistently feeling compelled from this inner blueprint of divine prototypes to express greater relationships, to express greater activity. This is the divine in us responding to those inner prototypes within. So we have the inherent capacity from the beginning to evolve each of our ways of thinking and feeling and acting to the highest possible level. And we want to bring it. We want to set, as you know how we set standards. We want to lift our standard, realizing that we are one with God. Lift our standard to the divine standard that should include all that we can think of that reflects a concept of wholeness, completeness, limitlessness, anything and everything that is the perfect truth of God or divine spirit or great I am within us. Why? Why is this so important? Why cannot we cannot gain steam until we do this? Because we are the seed of God life itself, the great spirit of life itself, unfolding its realities through this harmonic interaction of mental, emotional, physical bodies. Now ultimately, as it says, that which the Father hath not planted has come to pass. And what that means is anything and everything of ideas of delusion that we have about ourselves that are lesser than our infinite cosmic reality must go. We can only be what we inherently are, after all, from the beginning and ultimately. And since we know that any seed must produce a physicalization of like kind. For instance, if I plant a tomato, I will get a tomato. Okay, I will not get a rose. If I plant a rose, I will get a rose and not a tomato. God breathed us into being Thus, the resident potential is there. So if this is the case, how is it that we have gone awry? That rests within our freedom to think whatever ideas we want to use the mighty energy of our conscious knowing to think whatever ideas we want to about ourselves. So we are free. Here's our freedom. And this is where, even though it doesn't matter what we're thinking about ourselves, it won't change what we are, but what it will do is give us a temporary experience of limitation. But it does not change what we are in essence from the beginning. So, you know, when we think of a master, an avatar, a master is one who has achieved through conscious union. Remember, our tool is consciousness. Through conscious union, the complete embodiment and self-awareness of all that God is. And therefore, this being, which is you and me in potential, is the majesty of infinite love, with all of love or God's full powers flowing freely. So realize that each one of us here is no less. We are the masters and the avatars in the making because of who we are. So with this in mind and knowing what our goal is, how does this creative system work for us? We know that one, everything in life, in experience, begins on the invisible level with an idea, a thought, an image. According to the quality of the idea that we are identifying with, what follows? A feeling is produced. Okay, so it's idea first, like today is a wonderful day, and then a feeling. It automatically produces a feeling in my system, all right? And this is also the way it works. For instance, if I am projecting a thought, let's say of futility or negation, I will automatically begin to feel futility, droopiness, everything that goes along with it. I will become futility by my word, okay? If I am, to the converse, if I am projecting a thought of love, I will automatically feel loving. And the warm glow will physicalize, literally physicalize, and be released into my system and circulate throughout my body. So you see, so it is that we are the catalysts of our feeling life and our experience according to the quality of our thought life. And body responds to us totally and instantly. Body physical, and body of circumstances in my world will equally demonstrate, we use the word demonstrate, which means now picturing, or physicalize the nature of my thought. So it's important to understand this creative system and how things get powered. So if this is the way things work, by the law of our being and by the way that life is, and we are more in our essence than our thoughts, feelings, and bodies, the implication is that the divine in me, the I am that I am, by assuming self-responsibility, I can orchestrate these systems to act and produce for me a better world. I am free. I am not stuck on any pattern of expression, for I am the consciousness that institutes the expression. So if something doesn't serve me, I look for a greater ideal. Okay? And this is what you experience in meditation. Remind yourself, what is it when you meditate? What is it that allows you to notice that maybe you have certain thoughts this way, or certain feelings or reactions? That is your divine self that is free, and free to change and alter whatever it chooses. So this puts you in a position of self-responsibility. And this is a more causal position from which I can now move into more power and authority. So the road to emancipation is through the detaching from what we call the physical, mental, emotional conditions or outer facts. Spirit is never stuck on that which is going on out there, the facts we call them. And introducing, instead of being all tied up in that, introducing the element of conscious observation, control, not over persons, places, things, over my thought life, and alignment with the highest and the best. How do we feel from the high place the endless round of negative thoughts followed by negative feelings, followed by negative results? We must begin to re-rotate, reactivate these three spheres of our being and adjust them within our being till they are in a complete at-one-ment with the highest knowing about ourselves. We must bring each of our bodies under the high dominion of our high self, which is one with God, under the Godhead, or in other words, the Christ consciousness within us. So I like to look at energy, the poles and potentials from highest to lowest, let's say, or from the most sublime to the most earthbound. All it is energy that we may use to bind or free ourselves in varying degrees, to uplift or degrade ourselves, to unify or separate with the one limitless God of perfection of our lives. So we can experience heaven right here, or hell, according to where we're at. Thus, to heal our minds, we can start to consciously think at the most sublime level. We tune our thought radios to WGOD. That's called the Word of God. The Word of God, okay? Through cultivating the habit of thinking always in terms of eternal truths and divine ideals. And what that means is that you consciously start thinking, choosing to think the thoughts of God, which are thoughts of wholeness, completeness, perfection, regardless of whatever. They are always the thoughts of beauty, power, life, perfection, all that reflects the divine ideal. Okay? So I like to ask myself often, and I think this is a great tool, when you get stuck, and you know when you're stuck, right? Because we're not feeling our joy. We're not feeling, oh, this is a great day, I want to bring myself into. So obviously there's some thought pattern. If we're not feeling bliss every moment, there is something in there, okay? So I like to ask myself often, when I get stuck, or when I get in despair about anything, I just get quiet. And I go within. And I remind myself, I ask myself, what is God? Or my high self, or the loving Father, Mother, divine principle, knowing here? What is the highest and best I can think of in this situation, for this situation, know for this situation? How does God in me see this situation? And what is the divine in me knowing? Now, this is very important, because we must realize, at the human level, things go on. Things always happen. So we must constantly be vigilant to rise above the effect world and to go into the sublime place, one with divine truth, and to go apart and refer to the divine self, which is the source and the power that has nothing to do, nothing out there gave rise to us. So this is the way, by contemplating, what is the perfect right solution here? How does God see me here? What is God knowing for me here? Thus, I am tuning up to express and reflect the seed of divinity within me, that which my divine self is. So, 1, I practice bringing my thought life through contemplation, through vigilance, in alignment with the spirit of my life. 1. What about feelings? Feelings are a mighty, mighty creative power. Feelings are that which motor your thought and move it over into visibility. Move it from the position of invisible idea to manifestation. So how powerful are our feelings? All right, so my feelings, I can realize, now this is a new realization, just as I am in charge of my thoughts, you know how sometimes you feel, I can't help that feeling. It's just come over me. Oh, there's nothing I can do about my feelings. Well, that is not the truth. Since you are more than your feelings, you are perfectly free to alter your feelings. You are in charge, and we can elect to say right now, I am in charge of my feelings, and I can choose how I want to feel, how I choose to respond. That is up to me. So what am I doing then? I begin to raise up my emotional body, by perfecting it, by cleaning out any and all negative feeling reactions. Dual feelings, here's another power. You know, it says a divided house standing against itself cannot stand. A divided house cannot stand. Divided against itself. A house divided against itself cannot stand, okay? And multiplications of that, right? So any dual feelings that you have about anything, we know now will cause a lesser manifestation, a conflict, and mixed results. So on the scale of feelings, we know, there's like a scale, like a musical scale. At the lowest expressed state of energy is apathy. That is the lowest state of feeling separate. And that is, I don't even want to get up today. It's no use. Please, someone come along and do it for me, right? So as we begin to get into our authority and we realize that we are in charge of the way that we are choosing to respond to a thing, we can move up out of apathy, which is the greatest degree of separation, and we can move in an instant, if we would choose, to the highest state, most dynamic energy, which is bliss and peace. Courageousness, bliss, and peace is the state of authority, divine authority in your emotions. So that very same energy that was imploded, you can turn around and utilize as a springboard to rise to heaven emotionally. Okay. So how do we do this? Again, there's only one way. Through the realization that we are one with a God of love and fulfillment, that only desires perfect love and fulfillment. There cannot be anything destructive in the life force. It cannot want anything less than the best for you because you're itself. So in the cognition that even how I feel right now, this is some type of hearsay that I was told. It was some type of memory that I'm having. But let me remind myself that the divine within me only wants the highest and the best for me. And in that I can rejoice, and in that is my courageousness and my bliss. So I can move from apathy right to the highest potential and the infinite security of good. Emma Curtis Hopkins makes a very important statement. She says, all issues, all conflict, all confusion arrives from an inherent belief, an underlying, not inherent, underlying belief in two powers, or two gods, you might say. So what must I do to heal my emotional body? I must give up relating to, responding to a false god of negation and tune my heart to God raising all my feelings to love and unity and only good. So I rotate those spheres of my knowing, feeling world around the constant recognition of the presence of a God of good, healing, raising up from slumber into the full powers and expression of myself through perfect alignment constantly and perfect recognition. Someone said to me, a great doctor said to me, there is no transformation without inspiration. And what is inspiration? It is a greater concept about ourselves than we have ever had before. And where do we get this? From our past? From all the things that we identify ourselves with? No, we must go to the root of our source to gain the power to transcend the lesser. So you can ask yourself in your meditations, this is another important question. Where am I dual-minded? And then heal that with a thought of love, bringing all under the one. Because if you are thinking in terms of two powers, maybe this is good for me and maybe this is not, for instance, you're going to express that. So you've got to release one. To receive of the wholeness, you have to release the lesser. Now, we metaphysicians have these terms that we use called right thinking. That means thinking in terms of the truth, constant recognition of the truth. Right feeling. Right feeling doesn't come from things going good out there. That's an elevator existence, you know. Someone likes you and you feel great, someone doesn't like you, you feel terrible, you're up, you're down. No consistency, okay? So right feeling is a result of right connection with your inner self, right relationship to sublime principle, knowing of good. See, then you can feel good, regardless of the whatevers and the things that go on. And the third we have is right being and right action. Right being and right action. That means through our activity, we bring all our attitudes that we project toward others. Let's say about ourselves, we're talking about ourselves, you know, and let's say we're going through something. Well, we find ways to speak constructively, to relate ourselves constructively from the source of our being. For instance, it's one thing to say I'm experiencing some whatever, but I'm working on it. And it's another thing to say, you know, to believe that you cannot come out of it. So we must project through our instrument the truth about ourselves. And taking right action, that means gentle activities, not with a frenzy, not with a panic, but by following up your desire for whatever it is by right action. In other words, doing things which are in alignment with the attainment of that desire. You align your physical activity in a vibrational pattern that is with it. It makes you resonate with the thing when you're in right action. All right, so that balance that you have in using your mental, emotional body, right thinking, right knowing, right action about a thing will bring you into perfect alignment with that manifestation. Okay? So the yogis speak of the principle of unity. Yoga means unity. And they recognize the body temple to be a receiving chalice of God. You know, it's like a perfect electrical pole or instrument which receives and reflects and emanates and projects God or divine mind. Now, so our ideas come to us from Spirit, God. We project it through our thinking, mental, emotional bodies, our mental, emotional, physical bodies, and then we see the outer. So the way of perfection and maximum power is through utilizing all capacities of mind, feeling, and body by identifying with whatever we can conceive of always in the highest and best. This we call being causal. This we call being one with God, projecting the Spirit of God within us, the Christ in us, the truth in us, including the way we use our ideational, visioning, and will or choice capacities. Mind has aspects. It can choose what it wants to manifest. We call that will. It can vision. That is a constructive power of creation. And so we cultivate these dynamic powers that we have, and then we power it with the force, not forcing in terms of willing, but the energy moving out from us, the force and power of our feeling lives. The thought, breathe to the outer from ourselves, fired by our faith and love and feelings. And then our body, of whatever, reflects the health and good and dynamic that we have been knowing from the beginning. And as we use all our energy centers to project the forms of God, use right projection, right distribution. This is balance. This is bringing all into service, all of ourselves into service. To mankind? No. To the demonstration of the divine ideal through us. All aligned in right reflective action of ultimate realities. We know that the nature of life is to express itself. That will go on forever. It won't stop. There's no stop. This is what it is. So we must raise the template or prototypes of our expressions to reflect in all the highest and the best, the truth of our being. Bringing all in touch with the perfect patterns and reconstituting our invisible frame or etheric body. So as you think in terms of perfection, your body is going to be manifesting more and more perfection. So life is a grand orchestration of spirit. We can now take the position that we are here as ambassadors of truth through vigilant meditation, observation, and contemplation of our 3-in-1 body systems, bringing all into service and under the command of our higher self, one with the cosmic and blissful and universal self of God. Thus, in the inflow and outflow, or intake and outpouring of divine breath, now flows the perfect inspirations and knowings, the aspirations and ideals of a loving God through us. And as we speak the word of God through our body vehicle, it resounds throughout our entire physical emotional system. We know we have the rights of divine qualification, and we want God, the sublime, to be evident through us, to make it through us, out of density, into the light of day in the manifest world. So we stand back and see in our lives the day of God and divine victory in all. We are the totality of devotion, we are power, we are victory, we are clarity, we are the cosmic unity in all, and so it is. So what I'd like to do right now is just to do a short meditation to bring this energy to heal whatever areas we want to. So let us go within right now. Rising up the inner ladder of harmonic being within. Ascending to the top consciousness and gathering all the force of our being as perfect and the sublime. Right now, let us flow to the temple of the Most High, that golden temple of truth within, wherein we contact the central fire and flame of our being. And we stand aglow and radiating our knowing, our being. looks into the mighty flame of life. Let us view God's great vision for each one of us here now. What is that vision? A perfect God has in mind for you. And we embrace that good that we are shown. Now saturating all of mind, body, every atom, every cell, all of our feeling life, with a perfect acknowledgement of the gift. And in this moment of greatness, we recommit ourselves to bring this out definitely and most assuredly. And now we ask our divine self, what is it that I need to bring into alignment? Where am I out of sort? Each week I write a I am statement, which you'll also find in your program, which is very powerful. It has to do also with the subject of the talk. And you can utilize these during the week if you find yourself getting off balance in any way, according to the issues that we're talking about. Just pull these out, take time to read it over because they're very powerful and they are very aligning. And what I'd like to do is for us to read it out loud together, just allowing the words to absorb into your being and become a part of you. Has everyone got it? I am that I am, and right now I declare I am one with the highest of the high in all my ways. I am always the perfection of the divine nature and the divine ideal made manifest. As I align all of body, mind, and being to lift up and recognize the heavenly truth, I behold a boundless sea of good beyond comprehension. Nothing in me can stand apart from God's idea of greatest good meant for me. I am ever the governing consciousness, blissfully abiding and powerfully streaming the silent whisperings and intuitions of sublime spirit throughout every aspect of my reality. Right now, I tune all that I am to the supreme and beloved perfect one in every chakra and every dimension. As I do so, my world is profoundly ordered and altered and mightily manifesting the glory and victory of it all. Yes, I am one with the majesty of the age.